So we're transitioning now from the early 80s to later in the 80s as we go to the Demon Trilogy. And first, let me just say, there are other Talia al Ghul and Ra's al Ghul appearances. Not a lot, but there are others that are not part of this. We're not trying to do a chronological read of everything that they've ever appeared in. These are the ones that DC has conferred importance upon by collecting them and giving them obvious titles. And so we're reading them for that reason. But the other thing I'm going to say is now I kind of just want to read a bunch of Batman, a feeling I've never had in my life before. So I actually was thinking before we get to the Morrison stuff, just on my own, not for the show, I might go back and read or reread, because I've read something before, like Lonely Place of Dying and Death in the Family. I mean, I'm not going to like tackle like Nightfall, but I was thinking
Jim Starlin, Death of the Family?
Yeah.
Death in the Family?
I was just thinking I might read like a couple.
I can save you from that. I can save you from
I might have it in floppies, actually. I might just read like a couple big Batman arcs. I'm kind of on a roll now. I'm like, let's.
So this is a very common thing that happens to anyone who reads Batman, because you're like, I hate Batman, I'm not gonna read it. And then you read Batman, then you just keep on reading Batman, and you cannot stop reading Batman.
Facts is facts.
It happened to me 3 times.
There's so many Batman comics. A bunch of them are really good, just by like law of averages almost, because so many people have worked on this comic.
So it's not necessarily Batman is good. It's because the law of average, because of that.
I just think there's like, these are reminding me that there is a secret sweet spot that's from the Bronze Age and just briefly post-Crisis before he gets like really mean and grim, and I like stop liking it as much. And I bring this up because we're about to read Son of the Demon, which is in September 1987, which places it firmly post-Crisis, which means, and Batman really is not changed all that much by Crisis ultimately compared to some Superman and Wonder Woman. And this occupies an interesting, like, is it or is it not in continuity space. I'm not here to be your DC continuity cop. I don't know, nor do I care. My theory of DC continuity is Grant Morrison's theory, which is that it matters when you need it to matter. And Grant Morrison does need some of these story details to matter at points in their run. And so that is why we were reading them. This one especially. So we keep calling it the Demon Trilogy. We're reading it. We got a trade digitally called Batman Birth of the Demon, but there's other ways to get it. And it has Son, Bride, and Birth of the Demon in it. But the first one, Son of the Demon, if you only want to read one and you want to read the best one, in my opinion, I don't know, we'll hear from the other two in a moment. This is the one to read. Like, this is like really good original graphic noveling from the late 80s. People love all of these, you know, Arkham Asylum and all these. I don't have time for that stuff. This is what I want. I want like a geopolitical thriller with Batman. That reminds me more almost of Freya, like Longbow Hunters, that kind of tone from like Ghul Green Arrow. This feels like that. So I guess I'll summarize the plot in a second, but let me just open it up to the floor. Is this good? Am I speaking sense here?
So this this comic starts off with put a bad taste in my mouth by falling into like the super 80s grim dark thing of like, we're gonna threaten a pregnant woman with rape, and it's like, okay, I feel like we are so beyond this kind of juvenile ass storytelling. But I think this is a great book. I think it's really fun. I think Batman and Ra's are like the ultimate level of like bro-dom with each other, which is really funny to read. And I think the art's really good. I really enjoy the Jerry Bingham art. It's really the colors are really nice. It's got that nice kind of classic thing. I was really more impressed by the art in this, and I think the story was like fine to like pretty good. But yeah, I had a good time reading this. I won't lie, I got a little confused where it fits in with Grant Morrison's book. But then I just stopped caring because whatever, it's comics. You know, it's like, it's fine. Yeah. I had a good time.
Yeah, was it a good comic book?
No, I mean the fact that Talia mattered to Bruce when she became pregnant and stopped mattering when she wasn't. No.
Sorry, I won't lie. In this moment, I did forget about that wrinkle. That was super dumb.
No, that is super dumb. That is,
and
the thing is that you talk about like a DC continuity which matter. Go watch Batman and Son animated movie. That is the origin of Damien. That is actually what is in. It's based on Grant Morrison run. So that is what matters. Like, you know, to me, that's what matters. Like, there's so much more to it. And then also, Raz is saying that how he fought for the Allied force. He did it because there's Death and the Maiden, where he's shown as being a Nazi, and how he sent his other daughter, whose name is Nisa, Nisa Rapko to concentration camp because she moved away from him for when he was trying to kill all the people and everything.
Did Brubaker wrote that?
No, Greg Rucka. So
okay, that sounds like sounds like a Rucker Brubaker thing.
Yeah,
especially in that time period.
It's really good. It's Greg Rucka and Klaus Jensen, and it's set in New Earth. I don't know what that means in DC world, but it's like a super good, Raz and his family dynamic thing. To me, that's canon. That's what he is. I do not understand this Talia who sends her son to an orphanage. What? No, what is that story? I don't understand this. So to me, this was like a complete, I'm like, no, reject, non-canon. This did not happen. I did not read this.
I have so much to say about all of this. All this conversation so far has been focused on pretty much the first scene and the last scene of the book. So let me just fill in a little bit of the middle. So Batman breaks up a raid in a chemical warehouse, which has some really unfortunate peak 80s, let's threaten the pregnant woman. Just skip. You honestly just page past these pages. So Dr. Blaine, who we met in an earlier adventure to the Swiss Alps, has been killed. Yeah. And he leaves a dying message that seems to implicate Ra's al Ghul, who Talia at this time thinks is dead. So Batman and Talia fly to Ra's al Ghul's base, only to discover he's alive and he's got a Lazarus pit, which and Ra's al Ghul basically turns Batman to his side this is why I liked it, because he's like, there's this guy who used to be part of my organization who hates me. And not only does he hate me, but he's not trying to, he doesn't have the sheen of positivity that Ra's al Ghul sometimes wants to bring some benefit to some people. This guy is just a straight up terrorist. And he was implicated in the murder of Talia's mother. Do we totally believe that? Maybe not. And so I need you to join my team. And it turns out that Batman winds up really joining Ra's al Ghul's team and living with Talia and actually consummating their relationship.
Training his people.
Yeah, in nonviolence. He's like, I can teach your people to be good. So again, kind of connections to the movies a little bit. And then ultimately this guy, Kane, although it's spelled Quayin, but it's pronounced
the
Kane.
Dumbest name, the dumbest idea.
Let's not judge.
Okay, sorry.
No,
I'm reasoning for the name.
Yeah, I'm going to name myself about the biblical Kane, but make it sound kind of Asian.
That's
it's Asian part. Fusion Kane. And so he... I'm going on for a long time. It's a long graphic novel. He's going to take over a U.S. weather satellite to hold the world hostage. But then Ra's al Ghul kind of also wants the weather satellite, and Batman is kind of trying to keep it out of Ra's al Ghul's hands because he knows that Ra's al Ghul has the capacity to be a really terrible person, and he doesn't really want him to. So this is what I appeal to. I kind of skip the early scenes and skip the late scenes on much because I like this internationally flavored anti-terrorist Batman. That excites me. So let me stop there and see if anybody wants to talk about that part of the plot, and then I'll come back to my Talia stuff.
So quick little details. I mean, so much of this story is fun because of the trappings, just the weird little details that they have. Batman gets invited to dinner and Ra's is like, you're not eating. He's like, I can't eat under false pretenses. What do you want? And then
they're at this table that's a mile long, and Talia's just kind of in the middle, slightly more towards the Batman side. It's such a funny scene.
So then they consummate their relationship. Batman and Talia have sex in their room, and I'm looking at the room, which is very lavish, and this room is full of birds. There are so many birds in this room where Damian Wayne... Yeah, go back. When they're in the scene, there is a crane, there are parrots, there are so many birds, and it's really fun.
But no, the noise. That's why there's birds.
To drown out the noise, to be considerate of others, just to hear bird talk. In a really real way.
Someone tried to creep on them, and then Ra's is like, "Get out of here."
That was another issue. That was Lurk.
Oh my gosh, there are birds everywhere.
There's so many birds in that sex room. And in actual seriousness,
we usually call that the honeymoon suite, but okay, we could also call it the sex room.
It's okay. Come on.
All right. Yeah. But in all seriousness,
also peak 80s sunken. It's a room with steps down to a sunken lounge, and it's all carpeted, and the bed is in the sunken. I mean, peak 80s interior design.
Right.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, this feels like a vaguely out of continuity story just for how easily and earnestly Batman joins Ra's team and just gets married. But the thing is, it's kind of fun and awesome, where they're just like playing chess and Batman's just like, they're both just like, yeah, I hope we don't ever be enemies again. We're enjoying this. Like there's like a real, like an actual like noticeable camaraderie. And it's just, it's kind of bizarre because Batman's usually never this like trusting of Ra's al Ghul, but like, it's fun. It's just like a fun, interesting thing.
A surefire way to get a 1-star from Freya is like, if there is rape, if there is a threat of rape, if there is a woman just became important because she's pregnant, because of her pregnancy that makes it pregnant. And then at the end, she's made to relinquish that child for whatever nonsensical reason. All four of those elements are present here.
Truly bizarre how hard Batman goes for like, I'm committed to justice and stopping bad guys. And the minute Talia gets pregnant, he's like, I care about literally nothing but the sake of his frail woman in his eyes,
Yeah, and then here's the thing. It makes sense for where he is from and all of that. Like, if you just look at the Lego Batman movie, you will see why that matters to him so much. So it actually makes sense, but none of that emotional beats were there. It was just suddenly he was like all about it. And then he even like pushes her aside, even though she has an agenda of why she wants to murder, like, or kill this person. And everything about her was pushed aside. And to me, it's like any story that does that is, I don't care on all the other, like, other fun things that's happening. It's just I just become so blind to that. I was like, no, try better, do better.
I can't even argue with you, and I know this goes against the spirit of what you're saying, but I'm looking at a page here where Ra's al Ghul and Batman are sitting in like a mead hall, drinking flasks of like ale, and
you can do both. And here's the thing: you can do both. You can do that, and at the same time, give the women who have shown so far to have like a lot of agency. Her agency. This is not the origin of Damian. And if this is the origin of Damian that is in the Batman,
so here's the thing.
Morrison Batman, then I'm gonna say I'm ready to walk away.
No, that's the thing. It's not though.
Exactly.
It's empirically not. It's like this is not, unless I'm totally misreading this and remembering it wrong, which I very well may be, but like this is not the origin.
This is not the origin of Damien. This is not the Talia. I don't know what Talia this is, because the Talia that I know will never give up her son like this.
But here's the thing. I think, first of all, Freya and I have a very similar opinion about any kind of book that threatens sexual assault at all.
I do too.
Whatsoever.
It's super gross.
And just because it was like in the intro and I literally just paged past it, if I can just skip those 2 pages and keep reading rather than it being a central plot point, like sometimes I can get by, but usually it's like an instant drop. But here's the thing about the stuff at the end of the issue. I read it as Talia having full agency. Talia's in control. She lies to Batman that she lost the baby to make Batman feel bad. And then later Batman comes because she knows who he is and his losing his parents and she's manipulating him. Then Batman comes back and she's like, I don't think we can be together right now. And Batman's like, I'm so sorry. And he leaves again. And then all she does is finds a baby to send her necklace with to, like, in case Batman's ever looking for a lead. We don't know if that's her baby. This is Talia. She lies as easily as she breathes. This to me was like the peak, the climax of like all of the manipulations that Talia was doing all along in all those other stories we read. And like, even if it's not canon, I needed this here to show myself like Talia's the one who's in charge. Even if it gets totally erased or we find out that it was fake or it was never a story or it's not canon, like I actually needed this to see her bring her plans with Bruce to fruition.
See, I think that's totally correct. I just also think like the characterization of Batman is still like so blockheaded at the same time. But yeah, there's definitely like she is manipulating, she is doing things. I do think she has agency in this, and like I kind of felt like the scheming and the actual like plotting more in this, even though they're not outwardly saying it, more than I have in the other issues, which I liked.
I still just don't. I mean, the moment
you raised a lot of good points.
The moment she's like became pregnant, she's all of a sudden the most important thing in his life. And the thing is like, why? Like,
because Batman is stupid. He's a bad character.
That's the thing. He's just a bone.
And I get that. And this is what
he's a bonehead.
We talked about it before. before, where it's like when you use the same stereotype again and again, and when you're actually using it in a justifiable way, it stopped mattering to me, because it's like, I have seen this nonsense before. I've seen this nonsense happen to women before, women character before. We have already talked about it, how there is lack of women in these issues, and then whichever one you got, you settle them with stereotypical plots and everything, and then it just like that, because okay, even if it's like, this is not Damien, if it's some random baby, why even have that thing? Just send, like, just don't even bring that up. Like, it just, like, all of it combined is like, okay, if you're looking at a surface level, what is this? And if you're looking at, like, in another level of, okay, why is that even a thing? Like, why, like, anyway, like, none of the, so if the whole point was to just get the baby, get a baby out of him, don't even say that I'm pregnant. Just don't say anything. Just be like, hey, yeah, you know what? I just realized we can't be together.
I took it more as she realized they couldn't be, when she saw how incredibly overprotective and, like, addled he became once
he didn't realize that before. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I just did not buy this. I mean, to me, I was like, ugh.
I mean, I ultimately think that it's really interesting that we have three subtly different takes on this issue. Like, I came away, and Free and I read a lot of comics together that we don't make broadcasts about. And often we really agree on this stuff. But this one, to me, I just felt, I was like, ooh, this is going to be cool, because Free is going to feel different, because Talia is actually in charge of the whole thing. But, like, it didn't come out that way to everybody, which is totally fine that it didn't. But I think that is part of what's interesting about it.
Yeah, every time a woman gets pregnant in the comics, I'm like, this is not gonna end.
Yeah, I'm usually like, this is bullshit. Because it's always male authors. It's always male authors who are like, oh, we're gonna make her pregnant now because motherhood. I'm like, shut up. How about you just have a female that doesn't care at all one way or the other about motherhood?
And that's what Talia is. That's what Batman and Son is. Animated movie. She does not care. This is like, it's a weapon to her. Like, Damien is a weapon. Yeah, Damien is a weapon to her, and then she could not take care of him because of Slade Wilson attacks Damien, because Ra's was actually grooming him to be the next Ra's, or like next, and then
this is actually drawn from Morrison, so let's not get into these details.
Okay. Well, in that case, I love Morrison's run already. If it is from there, because that's what happened.
Right, well, anyway, maybe we'll watch the animated movie as a bonus special episode.
Do you know who I wasn't expecting to see in this comic? Gorbachev and Ronald Reagan. That was a bit of a twist. I was like, that's not like a fake president. That is Gorbachev and United States President Ronald Reagan in this comic, which was, you're right, Peter, like, just like this, the kind of like globe-trotting, like geopolitical intrigue, and that's all super fun. This is a insane like mishmash of a book, but like weirdly, I feel like the art kind of brings it home for me.
Now we're going to just briefly talk about Batman Bride of the Demon and Birth of the Demon from 1990 and 1992, respectively. And here's why. It's clear that this may or may not be in continuity. And I think that these have more of a thematic link to Morrison than they have any specific plot link, although I don't know for sure. So we read them because they were packaged this way, but we're not going to go in deep on these the way that we went in deep on that last one. So Batman Bride of the Demon is from December 1990. It's another original graphic novel. Ra's al Ghul is defending an Antarctic base where he has a new Lazarus pit, and he is obsessed with having a male heir all of a sudden. Not that Talia hasn't proven to be incredibly effective thus far. And so the plan just goes crazy. He wants to abduct a faded film star to rejuvenate her to youth because she is the perfect woman for him to have this male heir with. Meanwhile, he needs this climate scientist who's going to help him restore the ozone. See, Ra's al Ghul cares about the environment, but the resulting greenhouse gases will kill everyone else on Earth. But he doesn't really care because he won't be killed down in the Arctic. And of course that all gets foiled. The scientist dies, Batman intercedes, the plan doesn't happen, etc., etc., etc. Here's the one interesting thing I took away from this, because we are seriously not going to talk about the whole story. We're just not. It's very much a story about the way it's fathers and sons, which I think is going to be a big part of Morrison's run from what I remember about it. We have Ra's al Ghul obsessed all of a sudden with having a son, which we haven't really seen in the other stories we've read so far. We have the scientist who's really close with his son, who travels around with him to all these military things. And first the son is thought to be killed, then the scientist is killed, and we kind of get both sides of that. And then finally, I think most interestingly, we have kind of a pre-Robin Tim Drake here, who's kind of still learning the ropes. And so there's implication that Batman has just lost Jason Todd pretty recently. And Tim Drake tries to get involved in this, and Batman like freaks out about Tim Drake being involved and is like, no, I'm doing this myself. You're not ready. You're not a Robin, And so I just thought that ultimately this occupies a really interesting thematic space that goes with the Morrison stuff, which is kind of like fathers who want sons, fathers who have sons, fathers who've lost sons, and how that changes their kind of behavior. And it really makes it interesting to look at that all through the perspective of the two women in this plot, which is Talia and this faded film star. So without getting into the story, because it's really not worth recapping, any thoughts on the kind of father and son content here? And that's it.
I think this is one of those situations where you describing the themes and kind of like some kind of resonance there is more fun than actually reading it. Where it's just like, I don't mean that in a bad way. I didn't hate this book, but it's very, very blah, not to get super high-minded here. I mean, it's interesting. Yes, I mean, you're correct. Where like Bruce's kind of feelings about Tim Drake and the scientist's reactions to his son, and then Roz for his child. I mean, that is all there. I agree. I still don't think this is a very good book. I think the art's kind of fine. I think the Ra's al Ghul outfit is atrocious. It's easily the worst he's had, where he's got like this V-neck going down to his belly button, and more so, this book kind of also just takes a like, in the past they've had some kind of respect and like camaraderie, but now it's personal, and Roz is going to be all serious, and that just kind of like removes some of the fun of this relationship, I feel. That's about all I have to say about it. This was hard to get through. Talia's outfit is also just, I think, just straight up like a bikini.
Yeah.
And which is, it's just, there's just a lot of like, just weird, like mannerisms and tendencies from this time period without a lot of prose. This is like the bad kind of 80s thing. That's Freehus, please. The page where Tim Drake is running in on the moving penny is really fun. It's like a good turn the page moment to see Tim Drake just like running on this giant penny through the Batcave. But Freehus, please save me.
I know. I mean, to be honest, I kind of came from the previous story with such a sour taste, like that when I got here and then I saw Talia in a bikini, I was just done.
It's really egregious. I'm looking at it
because
now.
it's just like, it just not only just egregious from the get up point of view, but also from how Raz is talking to her, because all this time that we have noticed, this is not the dynamic or the relationship that they have, unless between at some point, because she let Batman go, now Raz is upset with her, if that's the way I'm supposed to read it, and that because of that now she's supposed to be in a bikini, which like the whole aspect of it, and knowing that how they're supposed to be coming from a non-white country, and then all of that, so it's like, what is the implication of that? I mean, the whole thing. I mean, to be honest, Peter summarizing it was far more entertaining than reading the whole graphic novel. Because to be honest, I did not notice about all the son-father thing. I was like, oh yeah, men being men again, wanting sons. Like, that's how I was looking at it. But Peter summarized it so much better. So I'm like, you know what? That was good.
And also, I mean, I don't tend to go for the father-son stuff too hard. Like, I know that I'm a parent, and so people think that like that appeals to me, but a lot of times I'm like, whatever, bullshit. Like, I tend to be much more into like father-daughter and mother-son, because it doesn't have that implied like, oh, we're close because of gender, I need a son to be my gender. Exactly. Like, I have no interest in that whatsoever. But I think it was interesting just because of how different the three relationships were, and like they were all broken in their way about the expectations of what it means to be a parent, or what it should mean to be a parent. And then also you have the contrast of Talia like talking about her mother, who she didn't even really get to know, and that Ra's al Ghul just like wants another bride now. And so I just thought that like added an interesting component. But the thing that was critically missing for me, and I think you both touched it, is nobody really feels like they have a very interesting amount of agency. It feels like this story is happening to them. Talia especially, which is why I'm here. But even like Batman, even Ra's al Ghul, it just feels like they're in a shoot. There's no moment like in that last one where it's like they're desperately trying to deprogram the weather satellite. Like there's just no moment like that. Like the scientist dies and it doesn't even seem to matter because Ra's al Ghul's like still going to do his climate thing that he's going to do. So it's got the international thing, it's got the eco-terrorism thing, but it's like missing the actual agency for the characters, and it's missing the moment that's actually high stakes. All of the stuff is kind of just about people dying and then not dying and then putting in the Lazarus pit and out of the Lazarus pit, and there's no like moment of real weight and importance. It does kind of establish some Lazarus pit mechanics, which I'm sure had been in some other comics at this point. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's Bride of the Demon. Hooray. So then we have Birth of the Demon, which I cannot possibly recommend that any human being read. Yes, Harry?
I'm just looking through the pages right now, and I really like Norm Brayfogle, so like I think the art's pretty good. But that's all. That's literally the only comment I have.
Well, here's the thing. So this like baited and switched. No, you don't have to apologize. We're on the show. This baited and switched me because it starts out with Batman pouring all of his resources into locating Ra's al Ghul and his potential Lazarus pits and learning the history of them, which I'm like, yes, let's go. I'm ready. Like, this is the story I've been building up to all this time. Right. It feels like what we said we were going to get from Bruce Wayne, rest in peace, right? So then he goes to one of them and Talia's there. I'm like, yes. And they like find this buried manuscript. And I'm like, at this point, I'm like on the edge of my seat. I have my whole fist in my mouth. I'm like, I'm like ready for this to finally take me all the way to where I want to go with this Lazarus Pit stuff. And then the middle 100 pages of this comic book happen. And it's like a deleted scene from Arabian Nights of Ra's al Ghul. It's so bad. I mean, it's somebody help me. So did anyone else get through the whole thing?
I skimmed.
No.
Yeah.
I guess it's down to me then.
Yeah, I skimmed through it and I looked at the art, and then as soon as the Arabian Nights started to happen, I'm like, oh no.
I'm having a great time skimming through because the art is so good.
It's beautiful.
It's incredible art.
Art is gorgeous, but the thing is, like, I'm saying that I am more interested into Raz's backstory from Death and the Maiden, because that is
that.
Yeah,
maybe we should try to read that for next week. I don't know. No promises, listeners. No promises.
That is like, a very like it's a modern. It kind of doesn't like put him in like some kind of what you call it, like a stereotype. It's completely different. It's a lot of immortal being things going on. It's to me, I'm picking that as my continuity just because.
I have no idea if anybody takes this seriously in continuity. I will try my best to summarize it, but I don't even think I could put.
But I'm here to watch Peter's reaction. So go for it, Peter.
So
the floor is yours.
Okay. So about 1,000 years ago in the desert, there's a settlement with a ruler who's as temperamental as any ruler you might expect to have, and his son who is a straight up asshole douchebag of the highest degree. And he's friends with the physician of the village. And the physician's a pretty good guy, super devoted to his wife. And the prince is just terrible. He'll like run down people in the village just because their horse race chased them through the village. Just terrible. And so what happens is a number of things. They kill this old lady in the village in their horse race. The son gets sick because he caught germs from some traveling merchants. And the ruler is like, you've got to do something to save my son. But at the same time, the person whose old lady mom died is like, I'm going to kill you because you were with the prince when my old lady mom died. This all drives the person who we eventually realize is Ra's al Ghul to make his first Lazarus Pit, specifically to bring the son back to life after he has a vision in the desert about it. But the son goes berserk, as people sometimes do when they come from the Lazarus Pit, and kills the physician's wife, which leads the physician to like lose his mind. But then the king tries to punish him for what? No one is sure. And eventually he runs away. It turns out the physician was actually from the raiders / merchants this whole time. And he tried to make it big to like break out from the family and be a doctor instead of just being a silk trader or a desert raider. And so they hatch a plot to get revenge on the king and his son. And ultimately, Ra's al Ghul realized the secret to enduring life. So he's going to take the place of this demon sculpture that they used to hold in veneration. And both he and notably the guy whose mom he killed and his uncle from the raiding party all wind up having eternal life and using the Lazarus pits until much later they have a falling out, because why would you want to hang out with the same three guys for 800 years? And after the falling out, it's when Ra's al Ghul kind of goes on his full-on solo supervillain. And the note that Batman discovered in the sand was a note from one of the other guys who was being immortal with him all this time that he eventually has a falling out with. It just felt like a bad version of Greg Rucka's The Old Guard.
Damn.
So I feel like Death and the Maiden falls right after this.
Really?
It does, because I mean, from what I'm remembering, so please pardon me,
yes, just tell us, because we're not going to read it.
Yeah,
so this is,
it'd been a while, because I think it kind of recaps some of his old things, but the thing is, it's like kind of like last 200 years where he has been, and what
that's kind of where this leaves off ish,
right? Like and especially the fact that he becomes a Nazi, and his becoming a Nazi kind of follows like a lot of other immortal supervillain becoming Nazis, because they are like, they don't necessarily agree with the they agree with the philosophy, they don't necessarily care for Hitler, if you know what I mean, that whole idea. And then he had another daughter, and that daughter had a broken but he sends the daughter to concentration camp. That is one thing I remember, so the thing is, and that was and she actually tries to save Talia, it's like, oh, you should not be with him, but then there was like a whole thing. So it feels like it just comes right after that. But the thing is, you summarizing all of that, I was like, well, that sounds good.
No, don't read it. First, it's 120 pages, and this stuff goes on forever. I mean, at one point they put him in a cage with his dead wife, and they bury him underground in it. So it's bad. It's bad.
This art's really good, though.
The art is amazing.
No, I'm not going to read it.
There's two things to take away from this story. 2.5. One, Talia swears she is not that old. She's like maybe we'd already kind of learned this, but she like really swears to Batman that she's the age that she appears to be. 2, Ra's al Ghul has been having visions of some kind of demon bat this whole time, and ultimately he confronts them at this Lazarus pit. They have a knife fight. One or both of them dies, but Batman is clearly killed. And Talia seemingly leaves him in the Lazarus pit, so he wakes up alone in the desert and nobody is there. I have no idea if this is canonical. I don't think anybody should read it. I'm just reporting on the facts.
Well,
reporting on the facts that this happened.
I'm not going to say my life was improved by learning all this, but I'm glad the way you told it.
I'm just all about, I'm here for this.
Maybe we should have like a sideshow where we just read like deeply bad and problematic old comics, and then we try to recap them in ways that make people want to read them. But then we're like, but don't read it. So that is the end of our Morrison preparation. We kicked around a lot of other ideas. We actually had our whole group of friends suggest all of their favorite Batman stories, some of which were covered in the Ra's al Ghul Tales trade paperback, but some of which we didn't get to. We had people suggest other things they thought were influential on Morrison. Ultimately, we would like to read some Morrison. So if who knows, you might read them, we might refer to them. We could maybe at the end have some recommendations. But it is time, y'all, to read some Grant Morrison Batman. So for next episode, the sort of prelude is material from 52, the series 52, 30, and 47. Right. You don't have to read them. We'll read them and we'll talk about them. But what you're going to definitely want to read for next time is the Batman and Son story from, is it Detective or is it Batman? No, I'm confused. It's from Batman. It's from Batman 655 to 658. And then there's other assorted stories that are usually collected along with that, from 663 to the not easy to remember number 666. So if you're reading on your own to keep up with us, what you should know is start reading your Grant Morrison Batman Omnibus. Stop at issue 666 when you are finished that. It's the Mark of the Demon, and that's where we're going through next episode.
this is definitely, this first act of Morrison's big run is definitely establishing a lot of things and figuring out the tone and figuring out where everything's going. But it is just crazy fun. It is so varied and out there. And it's totally in the spirit of the books that we've been reading up to this point. So if you've enjoyed this, I really think you'll be pretty locked in for this coming series. No, but to be clear, Faria is the big one. If we can get her into this, then I'm gonna do a victory lap around my apartment complex.
If the Batman and Son animated series is based on this, I love that.
I am going to watch that movie too.
Like, I love that. So because if it's from there, and then I've already read R.I.P. and a bunch of others throughout the run. So, it'll be good. It'll be good.
Now, I will say, this is all, we didn't know how this conversation was going to break up. This could have been a 10 episode series. We could have gone page by page through that birth of the demon. That could be a whole podcast. So I'm not saying for sure we're going to cover all of that in the next episode. We might get mired in talking about Batman and Son and just be on those 3 issues the entire time. I don't know. But our reading assignment internal to the group here is to read through 666. So that is what we are sharing with you. Could turn into a whole season of episodes just to get through 666. There's no way to know until you hear us talk about it. So until we get back together next time, Faria, have you been workshopping why we're reading Batman together? I know for X-Men, we have a handy saying.
Right. I think like a Batman is like, I would want to say that Batman is is like, you should like, because I'm still working on it. Okay. It's like, people, if there is an idea, just give it to me, because at this time I feel like Batman is like, you can get into like the whole rabbit hole of or bat hole of Batman, and then we're just trying to parse it amongst friends, but I have not covered it in a handy dandy speech.
So option number 1 right now is
t-shirt on.
Parse the bat hole, which maybe is not Faria's finest work of all time.
I thought we wanted to be a family friendly show. I guess.
So if you don't want to parse the bat hole as much as we do, then we're going to need a different name. I feel like it needs some kind of like detective thing. Like it needs some kind of like find the search for the something. I don't know.
Maybe maybe our adventure during the series is finding out the right phrase.
Why? No, it's okay. People, in the comment, tell us, why do you read Batman? Why do you love Batman?
Why do you read Batman?
Why do we read Batman?
That's the because of you, Harry. We learned it by watching you.
I learned from watching you, Dad.
Yeah, exactly.
Now we'll close out our father and son chat.
Yeah.
Sorry, did you want to add something to that?
No, I'm just saying that if you are in reading any kind of comics or graphic novels, you have to read Batman. It's mandatory. So, you have to. And then we're trying to do a good part of it. So, yeah. But until we find something better, let's parse the bat hole.
So join us next time as we continue to parse the bat hole here on Crushing Comics Book Club for Batman's run by Grant Morrison. Until we see you again, we're so happy to be doing this. Hopefully you are being entertained by it too, and you're enjoying our first foray away from X-Men here on the program. And until we get to talk to you again next time, we hope that you are well.
Parse the bat hole.
No.